Morning. I feel like I'm a teacher in a classroom. Everybody's looking at me like I'm the enemy. I know I'm Malaysian, but don't kill me. Yeah? It's okay. I promise when you guys come across, we'll be nice to you as well. You know, it's a very funny thing about Malaysians and Singaporeans. For some reason, we're like Siamese twins connected on the hip, yeah? And yet we spend most of our time fighting with each other. I don't understand why. So I always criticize my fellow Malaysians back home because I always say that Singapore is such a tiny little nation with no resource, no very little of anything, and yet you've made a fantastic success of yourself, and you've done everything better than us, and yet most Malaysians think they're cleverer than you. So I don't understand why. It's always very difficult being the first speaker because it's a Saturday morning and you probably had a late Friday night and you get up here and being forced to listen. But anyway, any Malaysians in the house? Malaysians here? Malaysians? Malaysians? Hands up? No? No Malaysian. Winston, no Malaysians? No? There's some fellow Malaysians. Okay. All right. I'm going to try and spend the next half an hour telling you about what the market looks like in Malaysia and how it's expected to believe. A double screen is the speaker's nightmare because he doesn't know whether to focus on this side or focus on this side, right? So never mind, I'll go back and forth. So I believe most of you are either property investors already or want to become property investors, maybe starting your property investment journey. And if you're thinking of putting money into Malaysia, I think then for the next half an hour, you need to listen carefully to what I have to say because there are some pitfalls that you will need to avoid. Otherwise, you might end up losing some money, right? I want to show you first a few slides to try and explain a big bird's eye view of the market. If you look at the screen now, you will see what I mean by a nightmare. Two screens. You look at the number of transactions. Can you see from the back? If you can't, then you might want to move forward. Look at in 2011, there were 430,000 transactions in the whole of Malaysia. That's a fair bit of transactions, 430,000 transactions. And in 2012, it fell to 427,000, which was a small drop of about 4-5%. But in 2013, it dropped to 381,000. That's a big drop of 10.9%, which means that between 2012 and 2013, the market contracted by 11%. And that's a lot because even when an economy is in recession, you only say that it's in recession when it's -2, -3, -4. If it's -11, you're already into a depression, which is what the Malaysian economy, Malaysian property market suffered in the year 2013. Because what happened in the year 2012 was the government introduced new cooling measures, new laws, cooling measures to slow the market down and said that you cannot now borrow on gross income, you can only borrow on net income. What that actually means is this. It means that you can't cheat the bank anymore. You see, things are not as... Now I'm in Singapore, I can just badmouth my government, it's all right. And they cannot arrest me until tomorrow when I go home. Because if I say the same thing in Malaysia, they will arrest me tomorrow for sedition. So I always tell my friends, if you want to be cool today in Malaysia, if you want to be cool, get arrested for sedition. Yeah. Okay. So what the government did was they introduced something called responsible lending guidelines, and now they said you cannot borrow money on your gross income. You can only borrow on net. There's always been a rule that said housing loan must not be more than 1/3 your total income. So let's say you had an income of 10,000 ringgit, right? And you could go and buy a property for about 600,000, and that will make your monthly repayments to the bank about 3,000 ringgit. So you take your 10,000 ringgit, you go and show the bank that you have 10,000, and the bank will lend you money to buy a $600,000 property, and your repayment is 3,000. then you could go to another bank and show them the same 10,000 and buy another property for 600,000. And then you can go to another bank and do the same thing. Sometimes you can go to the same bank and do it twice also, no problem. Yeah, in Malaysia, it's no problem. It's not that they don't know. They do. There is a system. But they don't care. They just want to lend the money as much as possible. So that happened here. So in 2012, the government said no more of these things. It has to be net income. So the market fell by 10.9%. And then in the first half of 2014, these figures just came out 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks ago. So you are actually the second batch of people in the world to see these figures in the whole wide world, because they just came out, right? And transactions now went to first half of the year 193,000. What I did, I projected it for the second half of the year, which we don't have figures for. I projected it for second half of the year, and we see that it will now become 386,000, which is a slight improvement from 381,000. So you see the graph. So the graph is the market went down 2011 to 2012, 2012 to 2013, big drop. 2013, first half 2014, drop again. Second half of 2014, small, tiny little climb. Yeah. So now that basically, that's a nice graph. Huh? Data is always king. So that's a nice graph. That graph shows that the market's leveling out a bit. I'll talk about that in a little while. But you see, in 2011, 430,000 transactions was 137 billion. Less transactions went up to 142 billion. Even less transactions in 2013 went up to 152 billion. So the cooling measures that the government imposed did not work. It only worked to slow the number of transactions. It didn't work in bringing prices down. Prices just kept on going upwards. Perhaps it didn't shoot up as much as it used to in the previous years. There was one year that a certain property went up by 72% in 1 year. Yes, I mean that's a crazy climb, and the economy cannot maintain that kind of climb. It's when that happens that it crashes again, you know. So now have a look at this. A lot of people in Malaysia believe that primary properties, the market's clearly broken up into two. Yeah, primary market, which is the developers selling new units, and secondary market, which is homeowners selling their homes. And the market believes that the primary market is huge, and the secondary market is smaller. But look at this graph. This graph will show you the red portion is the primary market. And every year, and we can track this for 10 years, every year, the primary market is merely 15 to 20% of the whole market in totality. But unfortunately, 80% of all the demand in Malaysia is focused on that small 15 or 20% of the market. So 80% demand chasing 20% supply. So big imbalance. So that's why developers can sell anything. You know, they can package anything they want, and they can price it at any price that they want, and it still continues to sell, which is the danger. So what the developers do in Malaysia is, they sell block 1 at say 600 ringgit a square feet, and it gets sold out in 2 weeks. Then they launch block 2 and sell it for 700 ringgit per square feet, and it also gets sold out. And then they launch block 3 for 850 ringgit, which means in a space of sometimes 3 months, the property price for certain development can escalate by 20-30%. Because the demand is far, far greater than supply. We need to change this situation, and this is what we are not addressing in Malaysia. This is what we are not addressing. What I did was, I took this slide and I broke it up to show you the ratio of supply of primary and secondary. You see the difference? There is a huge difference in the supply of primary versus secondary market. Okay, this one is the first slide. This first slide, I took what I did was, I took these figures and drew them here to give you an indication of what the market is like. Okay, if you if you can, I don't know whether you can see, but everybody look here now for a little while. If you can see, the transactions have been falling and falling and falling, right? But the values have been climbing and climbing and climbing. Now, it doesn't show it very well because I can only put so much in a graph. But what's been happening very clearly is number of transactions going down every year. This is only for the first half of 2014. So I took this and I projected what would happen at the end of the year, and I get this, right? Now you see, for the first time in many years, the number of transactions is slightly higher than previously. So the market has now flattened already. The property market in Malaysia, which was going down and down and down, has sort of little bit flattened. Let me show you something else that's wrong in Malaysia and that needs to be corrected very quickly, and you as investors must understand, right? Now, if you look at this chart, it shows you that big, long tower there is residential. That's the residential sector of the market, and the others are commercial, industrial, agriculture, and all the other things. Yeah, look at the lopsidedness of the residential versus the commercial. Residential market in Malaysia accounts for 64% of the entire market. 64. The other 36% is everything else lumped up together, which means we are very residential centric. And if you take just the residential alone and you break that up into like single-story houses, double-story houses, terrace houses, semi-Ds, whatever, you see that tall, long, big tower over there? That's the condominium market. You see, again, it is a little bit lopsided in the fact that we build. See, we are not research-based. In Malaysia, we are not research-based. We are gut-feeling-based. So the developer will just build what he thinks can sell. And as long as it can sell, he will continue to build the same thing over and over and over and over again. But you know, you can't blame him. He's a capitalist, right? His job is to make money. So you can't blame him for making money. You have to blame the greed of the human being who rushes to buy properties from the developer. You know, they line up from last night, right? If the launch is today, do you all do that in Singapore? You all also do, Tell the truth, huh? Got or not? I thought people only line up 5 hours, 6 hours to buy iPhone. Actually, I don't understand why. Because if you wait 3 more days, there's no more queue already, right? What is the need for you to get the iPhone on the day it is released? Very funny, right? So, in Malaysia, they will line up from last night, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, they will line up until the next morning, 9 o'clock, the showroom will open. Poor thing, you see, sometimes old people standing in line. If you leave, someone will take your space. So you have to stand in line. So entire families, it's like a family outing. 9 to 10, me. 10 to 11, my brother. 11 to 12, the father. 12 to 1, sometimes the small 1-year-old child also leave him there. So the market is very clever, you know. The market adapts by itself. So now the market realizes that not everybody can line up for 8-9 hours to wait for you, right? Now you can do a new thing already in Malaysia. You just leave your slipper there. Then you can go and sit there in the corner, have coffee, whatever. Your slipper there, they jaga your space for you already. Yeah. Just like in Singapore, when you go to food court, they put tissue. I didn't know. I went to food court, I saw somebody tissue, I pushed away, I sat down. So very lopsided. So the greed, the market, the greed in the last few years has been, we are pretending as if the world is going to end. So quickly buy as much as possible. Very crazy. Some people go and buy 7 units, 8 units, 10 units because they're trying to speculate. What they do, when they buy these condos from the developer, after 2 years or 3 years, when the condo is completed, they flip it. Yeah? And usually, they can make between 20 to 30% of profit. Usually. Now, this is going to change now because the market's flattened already. It works very well in a rising market because you buy here and you sell here, and then you buy here and you sell here, you buy here and you sell here. But in a falling market, it's not going to work so well. And we are going to see the effects of this in 2015, 2016, when many of these, this tall tower, many of these condos come on stream. Many of them, of course, are in Iskandar, as you well know. Okay? Okay, so enough facts and figures, right? Let's see what they brought me here to tell you my experience as the president of the institute. So what's the real score? Don't ask me, I don't know. Only this guy knows. You all know him? You all know him? He is Malaysia's ambassador to the world. If you all lost something like a plane, you call him, he will come and find it for you. He's very clever. He went on national TV and he said, the plane is either in the air, on the ground, or in the water. Ah, that's fantastic. Very good theory, right? But, you know, but I'm not him. Yeah, I don't have bamboo. Okay? The question that everybody's asking, the question Malaysians are asking now is this: are we in for a bad time? Right? Now, I do not think so. I don't think so. A lot of people ask me, is the bubble going to burst? Is the bubble going to burst? Is the bubble going to burst? And my answer to them is the bubble has already burst. We are in the middle of that bubble, right? We are already in the middle of that bubble. And we've seen now 3 bad years. We've seen 2012, 2013, and 2014. We've seen it already. 3 bad years is almost coming to an end already. So the bubble has already burst without us actually realizing, right? So I think from here onwards, we are on a little bit of level ground in Malaysia. Okay, number one, our economy is still healthy. Depending on which newspaper you read, in Malaysia, it can be anything between 4 to 6.75. The governor of Bank Negara, which is like your monetary authority, is it? The governor of Bank Negara very proudly declared that our GDP growth is 6.75. And I'm thinking to myself, where the hell did you get those figures? You just made it up or what, you know? But having said that, I think our economy is growing at about 4.5, which is pretty reasonable, not too bad. Yeah. We have relatively low exposure to international ups and downs. You all know this, the saying, the kata di bawah tempurung. You all know the kata di bawah tempurung. Yeah, you know, it means like the frog under the coconut shell, right? Malaysia is that frog under the coconut shell, because for the last 20 years, Dr. Mahathir has imbibed in our brains that all foreigners are devils, and foreigners are going to come and take over Malaysia, right? So we are very afraid of foreigners. Everything we do, we try to put a spanner in the works. So because of that, we are not as exposed as you guys are to the international ups and downs. I remember in the year 2000, when the Europe financial crisis and the American subprime crisis rocked the world, I remember properties in Singapore, some went down by as much as 40%. Is that right? As much as 40%. You know, the financial crisis of 2008, Malaysian properties didn't go down 1% also, because we are not exposed to financial, to international financial dealings as much as you are. We are, but very little, right? We have some very large infrastructure projects now, the MRT and all these big highways being some of them. Now, those projects have just started a few months ago, and there is going to be a trickle-down effect of the money from those projects, because they're massive. They're 13 billion, 17 billion, they're massive. So the trickle-down effect from that will spur the property market and more people will transact, right? Our interest rates are still very low. I think interest rates are 6 point something percent. And if you go and lend from the bank will give you minus 2.5, minus 2.5. BLR minus 2.5. So it's still very cheap. So you end up paying net figure maybe 4.5. So still very cheap interest rates, right? The market is becoming a bit more discerning now. No more just simply buying a roof over your head. No more just buying a house. You got to have a right look, right concept with a good look and feel. In the last few years, location now not so important already. Previously, you know, when they always say if you're buying property, the three most important things to look for is location, 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 right? But not anymore. Now I see that the Malaysian buyer is prepared to compromise location a little bit, as long as the infrastructure is there. That means, you know, all these highways going out to the outskirts, if you buy anywhere along those highways, you'll be fairly okay, because the buying sentiment has changed already. Yeah, and we are supported by very young demographics. 50% of our population is below the age of 25, and 70% is below the age of 40, which means these people will form households for the next 20-25 years, and that will fuel demand. So, you know, there's going to be great demand from a growing population for the next 20-25 years. Yeah, we have very high savings rate, which is why I think the banks are full flushed with money, and they're trying very hard to give it out, because there's a lot of money in there. You know, you can't keep it under the pillow. You must make it work. So they need to lend the money out. Our unemployment rates are very low, 2.5. At the last count, it was 2.5%. And this 2.5% unemployed is because they purposely want to be unemployed. Yeah, there's a bunch of people who are so lazy that they try every trick in the book to be unemployed for as long as possible. Yep. Now, even though I said just now residential was grossly overbuilt, my opinion is, overbuilt or not, that's going to be still the main driver of the market. That's still going to be the main driver. Yeah. Our prices are still comparatively low. If we compare our price, apple for apple, if we compare grade A office space with grade A office space in Singapore, or grade A condo with grade A condo in Singapore, our prices are about 40 to 60% lower than yours. So the price factor itself is a good incentive to begin an investment journey in Malaysia, because those prices are so low, they have to move upwards. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, now I see the market shifting slowly from the primary market to the secondary market. I predicted this at the beginning of the year. We are already seeing signs of it now. When the developers launch properties, the take-up rate is a bit slower, because more people have focused on the secondary market, which in some instances are as much as 30 to 40% cheaper than the brand new launches. 2014, 2015, the market will maintain its resilience, yeah, as long as incomes remain intact. Now we have some slight political problems in the country. Most of the problems are caused by Barisan Nasional, by UMNO. So it's okay, I'm not in Malaysia. I keep forgetting that I'm not in Malaysia. So we have a little bit of a political upheaval kind of thing, which we are not used to. If it doesn't escalate out of control, I think we'll be all right. Yeah, incomes will be okay. But that, having said that, anything bad could happen to anybody, anywhere. Having said that, I think 2014, 2015 will maintain its resilience. Yeah. And I think the market will still be driven by domestic demand. It is my opinion that there won't be a huge influx of foreigners coming to buy properties in Malaysia. I do not think so. Iskandar, now Iskandar is a bit of a iffy, dangerous thing. Iskandar is grossly overbuilt with high-end condos. Yeah. So if you're going to buy landed properties in Iskandar, you'll be okay. If you're going to buy the affordable range, the 500, 600,000 and below, you'll be okay. But if you're going to buy the higher one, the 1 million, 2 million, then you might not be okay in the short term. And when I say short term, I mean the next 2, 3, 4 years. But if you're prepared to wait longer term, I think Iskandar will become a fantastic property investment, because my opinion is that as Singapore continues to grow, you will have no choice but to start moving industries out of Singapore. As you go up the knowledge-based, into a knowledge-based economy, you will have no choice but to move your industries out. And what they say about Shenzhen to Hong Kong, JB, Iskandar to Singapore will definitely 100% for sure will happen. Because really, how much sand can you throw into the sea and make your island bigger? There's a limit to what you can do, and then you will have no choice. You will have to release that pressure by moving across. Yeah, and where else to move? But go to your Siamese twin now. We are connected or on the hip. I told you. Yeah. So I think Iskandar in the long run, 5, 10, 15 years is a fantastic investment destination. In the short run, high end, little bit of problem. Yeah, and even the president of Radar already said this at a press conference 3 weeks ago, that the housing glut will affect yields, right? Which means basically, in English, it means your unit, your apartment cannot find tenant. Yeah. Okay. They asked me to tell you about some of the hotspots. Let me tell you where the hotspots are. The whole of Klang Valley is a hotspot, right? The whole thing is a big hotspot. Remember I said just now, buyers are a bit more discerning now, no more location focused already, now follow the infrastructure. You see, look, if this is Klang Valley, I can't see. This is Klang Valley. You see, this is the center of everything, yeah? This is the CBD. Now, in the olden days, it used to be here, Ampang, which is east of KL. Here, west here, which is Damansara and Bangsa, and a little bit north here, which was Kenny Hills. These were the main hotspots as far as residential properties were concerned. Right? Now, that's changed. This blue line is the MRT, and that goes from Sungai Buloh right down to Kajang, right? And then the red line is also another MRT which goes from Sungai Buloh to Putrajaya, I think. And then there's another circle line somewhere here. It goes like that in a circle. Yeah, here, this one. It goes in a circle. So you see, you notice that all these tracks, these are train tracks, and then there's highways. All these tracks are moving away from the city, so try and ease the traffic a bit. Now, my opinion is this. My opinion is, if you bought any development or any property anywhere along these lines, you would more or less be okay, because that's where development is swinging now, away from the city center, even away from the suburban sectors, into slightly more further down from KL. So it's not unheard of. You know, this is Sungai Buloh. Rawang is off the map here. Further up here is Rawang. You all know where that is. That's really far away from KL. 2 weeks ago, they launched a 4-story terrace house. Terrace house only, 4-story terrace house, but with a lift and a small plunge pool for 2.1 million. 2.1 million ringgit, and it was sold out. It's only 1 year ago, you couldn't sell a double-story terrace house in Rawang for more than 300,000 or 400,000. You couldn't sell it. You tried to sell it, so nobody buy from you, right? But the infrastructure has now opened up new areas. Another area that is grossly undervalued today, and this one I think is a gold mine for you guys, is KLCC. You see, there's a lot of condos around KLCC, and Singaporeans own a lot of them, actually. I know a lot of my Singapore clients own condos in KLCC. Now, KLCC is here. There's many condos here which are now transacting for between 1,200 to about 1,800 ringgit. Yeah, depending on which condo, and primarily driven by the view of the Twin Towers and the view of the park, right? 1,200 to 1,800 ringgit these condos are selling for. There are some new launches being planned around here, and those launches are going to launch for 3,500 to 4,000 ringgit. Now, when that happens, this 1,200 ringgit will jump straight up to $2,500. I know this. About a year and a half ago, I was at a press conference, and I said that KLCC prices will go up to 5,000 ringgit in the next 5 years. And the next day, everybody hammered me like mad, saying that I was talking rubbish, and especially on Facebook. People say nasty things on Facebook. Especially they said, or I'm trying to cheat people. Of course, I'm the president of the institute, so that's my job. I have to say these things, and I'm a liar. Many things people said. But exactly about a month after I made those comments, they announced that they're going to sell one project down there, the Four Seasons Hotel, which is your guy, isn't it? What's his name? Ong Beng Seng's project in KLCC. They announced that they will sell for 3,500 ringgit per square foot. So immediately, my 5,000 ringgit per square foot doesn't look terrible at all, right? Because we already started at 3.5. So the KLCC is a good gold mine. So if you want to buy residential and you have the appetite for 1,000, 2,000, 5,600 ringgit per square feet, call me and let's go and look at KLCC, because I think there's a lot of good gems there that are going to escalate in the next 3 to 5 years. Okay. Okay, this is Iskandar, so I don't want to really go too much into Iskandar. Like I said earlier, if you are buying landed in Iskandar, you're all right. If you're buying commercial, you're all right. If you're buying industrial, you're all right. If you're buying affordable range, which is 500,000 and below, you're all right. But if you're going to look at properties at 1 or 2 million, then I think you better be prepared to leave it empty for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah. If you have that kind of holding power, you'll be all right. But if you don't, if you're going to depend on the rent to pay your mortgage, then I'd suggest you stay away from it, because my opinion is you won't find a tenant. Okay, Penang is another good hotspot. Penang is doing really well. For some reason, the foreigners like Penang, the Westerners like Penang, because it's nice. It's an island, a bit more laid back. That old world charm it has. So in Penang, property prices in Penang are sometimes equal to or a little bit higher than KL, because Penang is very foreign. A lot of the high-end condos in Penang are snapped up by foreigners who want to retire in Penang. Sometimes they live in Norway or Finland or UK or Canada, and in the 6 months of winter and autumn, they come and live in Penang, then they go back. So there's many people doing that. Okay, so basically I think this is what is going to happen. Bottom line, I think the economy will be stable. I think our consumption will be really domestic, not much of foreign consumption. Residential terrace houses and semi-D, in my opinion, will continue to be the front runner. These two will be the bestseller for the next year. Yeah, condo market is expected to consolidate. That's just a nice way of saying the condo market is shrinking a bit, a bit harder to sell now. The property market consolidated. Q1, Q2, it contracted by about, I think the first quarter was a bad contraction of 14-15%. Then the second quarter, the contraction was less. Now Q3, Q4, which is where we are now. We're already in Q4, but we don't have figures yet. Q3, Q4 will see the market finding its level. Yep, and that's my opinion. I think for the first time in 3 years, our market will stop dropping already, and it will flatten out a bit. Yeah, and the market will shift. Like I said, it's already beginning to shift from primary to secondary now. 2015, in my opinion, will see the market beginning to level out. 2015, I think we will flatline in 2015. If we don't flatline, then we might climb just a little bit or slide downwards just a little bit. So overall image is a flatlined property market. 2016 and 2017, in my opinion, is the next upward trend. Yeah, that's the next upward trend. So this is the trend, right? This is the trend for the market. So it's been dropping 2011, 2012, 2012, 2013, 2013, 2014, 2015 levels out, 2016 climbs up. My opinion, 2017 is the next high, right? Okay, thank you very much.